Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode here. This is my quarter 2 roundup of the year. I like to do this every quarter. Look at the list of albums that I've been listening to and enjoying this quarter that I haven't yet featured on the channel, but I want to bring your attention towards because they're really excellent and deserve more ears. So these are a little bit more of the hidden gems, the albums that you may not have heard of, or that you know about and are wondering why I haven't yet talked about it on the channel. I just haven't got around to it. But these are all really excellent albums, and I'm really happy to note that it's a pretty eclectic group of albums this time around. I'm doing 20 albums, and they're from all over the map. You know, various different countries are represented, various different genres, subgenres, I should say, of progressive rock. So if you're into progressive rock, there's going to be something on this list for you that you'll really enjoy. At least that's what I hope. So I'm really excited to talk through it. I'm going to kind of scoot over a little bit and try to put up a picture of the album by my head, but I'm also going to put in the description the titles of all of these albums so that you can search them and find them on your platform of choice to be able to listen to these, because they deserve attention. That's really what I'm doing on this channel, is showcasing artists that deserve a lot more mention and spotlighting, and showcasing that there's great music being made now. There's dozens and dozens of albums being made throughout the year that are just worthy of great attention and great praise. So here we go with 20 of them. Really excited to talk through these, so let's get to it. Alright, so the first album on my list is Ambrotype, and the album is called The Colors of Darkness, Volume 2. This is really excellent melodic modern prog or prog metal. There's a bit of a tinge of prog metal in the mix here. There's even some aggressive growling vocals, but there's also some laid back kind of more acoustic style Opeth sections as well. Maybe hints of Haken or Riverside in this mixture. Really great vocals, really great sounds. Maybe a bit less polished as a final product, but it's an independent band putting out a really excellent record that's in line with a lot of the modern greats of the genre. So I just really loved this, and the more I listen to it, the more I appreciate what they're doing here. Just 4 tracks on the record. 3 of them are past the 8-minute mark. One is 16 minutes. So there's some really cool, lengthy, meaty songs to get into that run the gamut between more mellow vibes to more aggressive prog metal. So really great selection here to talk through. Next I have Wolves by Drage. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but this is fantastic jazz rock, fusion, tinged progressive rock, you know, a fantastic artist from Norway. Apparently he's a big drummer, and he's bringing on a host of musicians to kind of beef out the sound here. I've heard it compared to like Mahavishnu Orchestra, Soft Machine, some King Crimson vibes. So eclectic instrumental prog with definite jazz fusion undertones, some excellent vintage keys and impressive drum work. It's just a home run, a winner of a record that I really like and thought was a lot of fun this year. Next, I have Benthos and their album From Nothing. This was a release from Inside Out. This is more heavier side of the prog metal equation, kind of on the borderline of what I can handle as someone who doesn't really like the more extreme, growl-heavy progressive metal. There's a bit of growling here, but I think it's tastefully done, and it's not constant. There's definitely clean singing as well throughout the record, but very intricate and complex. It had sometimes it reminds me a bit of even Thank You Scientists and their brand of kind of eclectic prog rock, but with kind of a periphery, like heavy metal aspect as well. So just really love this record. I thought it was really fun, quirky, and interesting and different than what you might expect. Another album, Chercan. This is their self-titled record, a fantastic Chilean prog group with it's all Spanish vocals, and really fantastic record that has grown on me as well. I find a lot of shades of like Mars Volta in this record, some like funk influence, some jazz influence, great percussion, some horns. So really eclectic, cool record that showcases a new young band on the rise. I just really like what they're doing here. Love the Latin influences in their music, that they're celebrating their heritage, and it's just a really fun record that keeps growing on me as well. The Orphan Epoch by Cosmograph. This is an artist that's always been on my radar. I really love their more melodic, kind of mellow prog rock angle, but on this one they get even a little bit of a heavier edge at times. You know, they get some edgier moments, some more cool guitar work. I believe Robin Armstrong is the main man behind this record, and it's a great concept record that I really thoroughly enjoy. Just supremely melodic and just pleasant to listen to, and I found a lot to enjoy. Fits in that mold of modern prog rock, kind of along the lines of like a Pineapple Thief, or you know, some of the modern Porcupine Tree, that kind of a realm, and it's just really supremely well done. Quantum Phase Transition by Exzillo. This is something that got on my radar. Really interesting, eclectic prog that's hard to quantify, hard to give a label to. I see it on Prog Archives as psychedelic space rock. This is a band from Spain, but there's definitely some flamenco influences that bring that kind of Spanish flavor. There's also some heavy, like, metal tinges with some growling vocals in different sections. So it's a little bit all over the map. There's some more extended, like, instrumentals on this record, but then some really interesting, hard-hitting prog metal tracks, leaving me very interested in what they're doing, and a really cool eclectic stew. You know, I think they dial in a bit more on what their sound really is moving forward, that they could really impress and showcase some really great prog metal. I'm really excited about this group and what they're doing. This is the least proggy record, obviously, on the list. This is Great Grandpa and their album Patience Moonbeam. Definitely more in the indie rock vein, even with a lot of kind of country and Americana kind of influences throughout the record. But I just totally love it. The melodies are captivating and beautiful. There's a lot of variety here, more than you'd expect from a modern indie rock record. There's just some electronica influences, some more country tinge stuff, some indie rock classics. Some folky stuff as well. I just really adore this record and think it's just some beautiful melodies, great female vocals, and has proven to be one of my favorite non-prog releases of the year, so I had to mention it in this list as well. A Shout Into the Void by Great Wide Nothing. This was one I very heavily considered reviewing on the channel. I just never really got to it. But this is an interesting band because they're a prog band, but have kind of a punk influence to their sound, at least in their subject matter and in their aesthetic. There's some angry lyrics here about the state of the world and what's going on, especially with kind of U.S. politics and things like that, I imagine, is a big piece of this. But really incredible musicianship, some really great bass and keyboard work that brings to mind even like a Furious, like ELP kind of virtuosity. The vocals are probably a bit of the rough part of the group. I would say, you know, there's a little bit of work to be done there. They're kind of an acquired taste, but at times they don't bother me, and I think they bring a lot of passion and showcase the meaning behind the lyrics. So, all in all, it's a really great record that impresses me. I think it's a step up from their previous ones, and I'm really excited for what they've got ahead. Just a wonderful, newer U.S. prog band that's doing a great work as they go about their business here. So another one that I really loved is called Finding Time by Half Past Four. This is a group I followed for a bit of time. I think they're really fun. Quirky progressive rock band. They have a female lead vocalist. They bring to mind a bit of kind of that off-kilter Gentle Giant style vibe. Definitely have some jazzy influences in their sounds. Definitely aren't afraid to do things that are a little bit off-kilter and strange. Different time signatures and tricky sounds and, you know, complex rhythms and things like that. But I just really adore it. I think this is a really fascinating record. It's fairly short. Only about 35 minutes long, I think, but a great punch and some really cool, captivating tracks on this one. This one's called Disconnection. This is from Initial Condition, and if you've been looking for kind of a successor to Haken's Aquarius that stays in that direction a little bit more, rather than the direction that Haken kind of went in a different way, I think this sounds like that kind of classic Haken Aquarius sound. This is a prog metal band from Germany, and this record just continues to impress me. You know, it has that kind of Haken energy where there's some really great tuneful songs, but then they throw in some really cool, expansive, progressive metal, quirky instrumental sections that run the gamut between a lot of different flavors. And it's just a lot of fun to listen to. Maybe a bit overlong. You know, it's over an hour long, and sometimes you can feel that length, and a lot of these pieces are expanded and epic, and sometimes that works in its favor. Sometimes I feel like that drags a little bit, but all in all, for a new young band, and this is one of their early records, I don't know if it's their first or second record, but a fantastic early record from the band that showcases a lot of promise in the prog metal genre. I really loved this, and it's one I hear very little about out in the streets, so definitely check this one if you're into that early Haken sound. Now I've got a Postcriptum by JPL, Jean-Pierre Louviton, a fantastic French artist that's well known in many circles in modern prog. This is a band or an artist that I know Prog Corner really appreciates and loves, and I found a lot to enjoy on this record. It's all French lyrics, but it's just really great modern prog, very rocky and catchy at times, has a bit of a harder edge than some of what's come before, but it stays in that kind of melodic prog vein, some great guitar work, some great expansive keys, and it just works really well. It's just a solid set of songs that I really enjoyed listening to, and just one that I often come back to and think is really pleasant to listen to. So definitely on my list here. I really liked the new one from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This is called Phantom Island. I just think this is a fantastic record that I've absolutely loved listening to over the past few weeks. I'm famously not a huge fan of King Gizzard. I think they do a lot of albums. They're famous for like putting out a record number of albums in a short amount of time. And a lot of times they go in a lot of quirky different directions that just don't hit and work for me. But I really like this record because it stays in this kind of 70s groovy rock era, just really pleasant summer album. They introduce some sprinklings of orchestration throughout it. That's kind of its gimmick. And it just makes for a fun listen that I can put on in the background and just enjoy the heck out of. I think this is just such a breezy, great, catchy album with wonderful melodies and a beautiful aesthetic that just works for me. It kind of fills that slot that I got from Lemon Twigs last year. They had a great summery album that just really worked for me as uplifting, joyful vibes, and isn't quite in the prog vein that I tend to listen to, but works regardless with my taste and loving kind of that classic 70s style sound. So it's a winner for me. Now I'm going to talk about Maestri and their album Espresso della Vita Lunar. Fantastic group. I really like this record. It caught me off guard. It's prog metal at its goofiest and most cheesy, I'd say, but there's some excellent musical hooks, some definite quirky, interesting prog directions that put a smile on your face that aren't what you'd expect. They have kind of this goofy, kind of Danny Elfman sort of aesthetic to them. Bear Ghost is another reference that I think about, but more of a metal style than Bear Ghost, where they bring these kind of almost vaudevillian kind of sounds and circusy kind of music, but into a more modern context. It's a bit overlong, there's a lot of tracks here. It's a sprawling concept record, but I really like what they're doing here. And some of the tracks just are delightful to listen to. It gets a bit ballad heavy as it goes along, and some of the ballads are kind of cheesy and aren't having a lot that grabs my attention, but some of those early tracks that bring that kind of Danny Elfman goofy vibe are just right up my alley, and I just totally love it. So an eclectic grab bag of really excellently crafted prog metal. Now we've got Mickstein Miniman and their third album. This is a fantastic collaboration from two artists that I really respect heavily. Randy Mickstein has been playing with Steven Wilson on his recent tour, also was in their touring group for Porcupine Tree. Marco Miniman is one of the most premier drummers. He plays with the Aristocrats as well as many other projects. And it creates a really cool blend of music. Mickstein kind of brings his more melodic sensibility as a songwriter, and Miniman brings kind of the firework with just some really cool, fast, furious playing and some eclectic style to the songs that are on board here. But I like that kind of balance where it's just great melodic tracks. Every track is fairly short and has some poppier hooks in it, but there's some really interesting instrumentation and interesting ways that they portray it rhythmically that really works for me and makes it a very exciting and fun album to dive into. So loving this record. It's one of my favorites for sure. Next, I have the Nankai Trio. This is Antarctica. This is a jazz fusion trio from Japan. Just blazing fast playing, virtuosic style. They are just fantastic. It's like guitar, bass, and drums. Just really cool, impressive showcase, but they do it with finesse and style, so it's not just like blowing you out of the water with fast playing that never stops. You know, it has a bit of that nature to it, but I think they have a lot of style to it where it's pleasing to listen to and has an arc and has, you know, variety on display here on this wonderful record. So definitely check it out, especially if you're a jazz fusion head. This is just gonna delight and excite you. I think this is a fantastic one. And this one's been getting a lot of attention, very rightfully so. This is Oimi Doshu and Vidrada. This is crossover prog from the Ukraine. It's all in Ukrainian, but it's so beautifully done. This is just sumptuous melodies, maybe some pop sensibility to it, but the arrangements are just so beautifully done. There's strings and other elements, beautiful vocals, acoustic guitars that just creates this just beautiful soundscape that is undeniable. Some of the most supreme, satisfying, beautiful melodies of any record this year is on this one. Even though I don't really understand the lyrics because I don't speak the language, you can feel the emotion and the heartfelt nature of what's being described and what this record's about. So it's definitely a top tier record of this year. And with more listens, this could rise up to the heights of my list because I've just been loving it more and more with more plays. A lot of these albums would probably sit in my top 20 if I just had the time to listen to them more and spend more time with them. But I'm always inundated with so much more music to listen to. It's hard to give it its fair shake, but definitely well recommended. This is a must listen. I think everyone will find something to really adore in this record. Just beautifully rendered, wonderful melodic prog that I just absolutely adore. Phase Transition, In Search of Being. I almost reviewed this one. I even wrote out my notes for it, but just couldn't find the time to film the review, unfortunately. But I'm going to mention it here with a great spotlight because it's a wonderful record that showcases kind of a modern angle to progressive metal. I hear the Dream Theater influences here, but their own quirk is brought into it, especially with their female lead singer and violinist, which brings a really fascinating angle. It's only 5 tracks. It's under 40 minutes in length, so it's fairly easily digestible, but every track is really cool. They have a great sense of melody, but they have some really absolutely intense, great instrumental sections as well. And this is the kind of prog metal that really speaks to me. It's not too heavy. It doesn't veer into growling territory, really. It sticks in the lane that works for me. I think there might be one track that has some growls in it, but all in all, it's just wonderful melodic prog metal. I love the violin addition. That really adds some great secret sauce to the mix, and wonderful vocals, and it's just a really pleasing album that I absolutely adored listening to. Almost considered for my top tier, top 20 albums of the year, but just barely missed the cut. But fantastic regardless. I absolutely love this record. Next, I want to mention Rocking Horse Music Club and The Last Pink Glow. This is a beautiful record, just focused really strongly on great melodies. This is the work of Brian Coombs. Very pretty and pastoral. It is a concept record, as I understand it, based on some classic fiction, and it has a bit of this kind of Americana feel to it. There's even some country tinged tracks on here, some folk style music, but there's also some very melodic pastoral prog that brings to mind, classic period Genesis. In fact, Tony Banks is featured on a track, so obviously that's an influence here. I'd say kind of that mid-period Genesis of like, Trick of the Tail, Wind and Wuthering era Genesis, but just a beautiful record with some really sumptuous melodies, some great vocals, and it really captivated and interested me. I think it's a just excellent record. This is one on the heavier end of the spectrum for me, not usually what I tend to enjoy, but something about this record just really works for me. This is Snooze, and I Know How You Will Die. This is more extreme styles of metal mixed with maybe a math rock sort of aesthetic, hardcore stuff going on here. There's some growling, screamy kind of vocals in various sections, but there's also some great clean singing and great... What really strikes me about this record is it has a great variety of different things going on, different textures, different styles, different moments that are heavy, but moments that are soft as well. A great balance, so it doesn't feel like all the time over the top heavy, hit you with blast beats and growling. There's moments of that, of intensity, but it's balanced well with moments of melody and beauty as well. So it just really is an interesting record that I think is a cool eclectic mix of different things that I really liked. And, it just continued to impress me the more I listened to it, even though it doesn't really sit within my normal genres. When something outside of my genres really strikes me, that makes an impression on me, and that's why I wanted to include this on my list. Something really fascinating this year that I've really loved. My last pick for this 20 is Soft Fog and the album Focus. This is more jazz rock / fusion. I've had quite a bit of those kind of records, instrumental, band from Norway once again. But I just totally adore this record. It's very colorful, very vibrant, great blend of kind of classic melodic prog rock from the 70s, like Camel and Focus, which you get a bit of those titles on the album that show a nod to Camel and Focus as well. But there's obviously a jazz undertone to the whole record. So it's a great balance between some, classic symphonic prog, but also some great blazing jazz fusion and some really great playing. And it's just a wonderful record that I absolutely adore. I think it's really fun and well worth your attention if you like that sort of thing. Definitely one of the highlights of the quarter for me. So that's what I have for you guys today. That's my roundup of some of my favorite albums from the quarter that I haven't yet spotlighted on the channel. Obviously, there's some of the heavy hitters that weren't on this list that I've talked about in separate reviews. I'm also doing another episode. It's probably already out by now on the channel, of my 20 favorite albums of the year so far. So for all the records you expected to hear me talk about, those will be on that list. But this was more of the hidden gems and the lesser known tracks that I think are worth your attention and that I wanted to bring a spotlight to. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully you appreciate this episode. Let me know in the comments. Put in any of your favorite albums from this quarter that I didn't mention, especially hidden gems that I may not have heard about yet. I always am looking for new music, so let me know about what you love in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and enjoy the music. Thank you guys. Bye.